Welcome to today's conversation on the moon, especially today's moon, which is a full moon in Leo. And there's so much to talk about as far as this full moon goes. But one thing that I want to let you know, if you don't already, is that today is allegedly, according to astrology, the luckiest day of the year, because we got Jupiter conjunct the Sun exactly. So it's a fantastic, this happens only once a year. So it's really, really special. And it has special significance for today's moon. I wanted to just check, the people who've written down where their natal moon is. So mine is in Libra. Sarah says Scorpio in the 8th. So it's a very deep and intense, a little bit moody as well, moon natally, depending on what the other planets are doing. Israel says moon in Taurus, which is the exalted moon. It's one of the happiest moons out there, and also it's quite stable, calm, likes food and other things we won't go into detail on. And it's in the 11th house, so not surprisingly, Israel has been a constant presence, a very positive influence on the Astrological Lodge of London that I used to also be a part of for a long time. And now Israel is the president of the lodge. So, we're actually honored to have him here today.
Thank you.
Then Joanne says also moon in Taurus. I've got 2 moon in Taurus today, at least in the 8th. Again, this is the 8th house is the house of transformation and deep introspection and the metaphysical matters as well, and the cycles of life and death. And I think it is in the 8th, Joanne. We don't know about the others, but I know Neil, actually Diana also has the moon in Taurus. I can't remember the house, possibly the 7th. Neil has the moon in Scorpio. So we're having there's a theme here. Taurus, Scorpio, Taurus, Scorpio. Sarah in Scorpio we had. And Diana in Gemini. And Kristen, I don't know, Kristen, where is your natal moon? If you could put it in the chat, that would be great. But anyway, let's dive in. So I'm going to talk to you about today and the full moon that we have today. We're going to go through how you're going to experience it by ascendant. So it's important that you know what your ascendant is. And once we're done with that, my dear friend Charlie, who is a fantastic clairvoyant, and I've been working with her for a few years now, and oh my goodness, she's like spot on every single time. She will be giving us an energy update at the end of the conversation on astrology. So let's try to get through everything as quickly as we can. So what can I tell you about today? So it's the first full moon of the year, and you'll be here in just about 3 hours, I think, not 2.5 hours roughly. And it's a full moon with a lot of energy behind it, and it's warm, heart healing energy. There's a lot of joy, a lot of pleasure, a lot of play. It's a very, very life affirming full moon. But it doesn't come alone. So right now we have an incredible setup in the sky. We have got the moon clearly in Leo. Then we've got the sun, obviously, as a full moon in Aquarius, so opposite the moon. And we also have Jupiter, as we said, right next to the sun. In fact, they're together, like in a once in a year embrace that brings a lot of optimism and positivity and a very, very clear vision for the future. Now, not far is Saturn, also in Aquarius, and Saturn is more like the adult in the room, basically, because with Jupiter, you could be going like off on a tangent, do who knows what. And Saturn says, no, let's look at the plans. Let's do a budget. Let's look at the resources. Literally is the, it's the reality check And it's there to protect us, to ensure that we do the right thing, that we're not disappointing, and that we give our best. So it's there nonetheless to support this new vision with a dose and the touch of reality. Then we've also got Mercury actually in Aquarius. It's a bit further towards the end. And interestingly, today it's stationing to go retrograde. Oh yes, we're going into Mercury retrograde time, and it will be.
And I have to ask, because I hear that phrase all the time, Mercury retrograde. I mean, is that good or is it bad, or does it depend on the bigger picture?
It depends what you want to do. So also, some people tend to be affected more than others. But in general, when you got a planet that goes retrograde, the action that the activity that's associated with that planet takes a step back while everything gets reassessed.
So it's a rewind almost.
It's a rewind, rethink, analyze. Am I on the right track or not? And often you have people that connect you, people from the past that come back, for example. And let's be honest, with Mercury retrograde, it is possible that you will get kind of admin errors, and technology can also go haywire. I know Neil, every time he just goes, there's something that breaks in his computer, for example. So it really depends. Some people somehow tend to be more susceptible than others. And it's happening soon. So Mercury is already kind of slowing down to, focus on, okay, let's pause, let's think things through. What do we need to revisit? What do we need to change perhaps in the future? And then in 3 weeks' time, everything will restart moving forward again. But today, all the planets are direct, which is, it's almost rare. It doesn't happen a lot. It usually happens just for a few weeks in the year. And when all the planets are direct, it means it's time to go, go, go. So the energy is flowing, there's forward momentum, and things just happen and just, just go, it's a time to make things happen and to get things started and, to work hard, because if you put in the right work, you will get the right result, hopefully. So there's a lot of positivity around today, around this lunation. There is also a very important, intense conjunction that's happening again, exactly today. And that is the Venus and Pluto conjunction. Now, most of you will know, or all of you will know, that Venus is about love, is about what you like, what you don't like, so your values, and it's also about finances. And it's currently in Capricorn. It's a bit like, in Capricorn, it's a bit like budget conscious, thinking about status, thinking about being sensible in the choices that, that she makes. And Pluto is also in Capricorn, and it's been in Capricorn for a long time now, for several years. And when these two come together, Pluto is about ultimately deep transformation. In the process, though, it tends to bring up uncomfortable truths, I suppose you could say. So today is the day in which anything to do with love and finances and values is literally screeching for to transform, to become more deeper, more intense, more true. Enough lies. We need to be absolutely honest. We need to be absolute in our love. So there's a lot of intensity. You could even say there's a little bit of an obsessive nature to this conjunction that will manifest in a particular sphere of your life, depending on where this is happening. And we will be going through that when we look at how this full moon manifests per ascendant. So we've got two more things in two more comments. Yes, we've got Kristen, who said, Moon in Leo, woohoo! So it's party time, lunar return. 12th house, conjunct Mercury, or is it 12 degrees? No, 12 degrees, sorry. So very, very close to this full moon. Conjunct Mercury, also 8 degrees, so completely on the, spot on with this full moon. And nice to join you, by the way. Nice to see you, need to meet you, by the way. In the 5th house, which is a Leonine house, so I wouldn't be surprised if you're quite creative as a person. And squaring your natal Uranus in Scorpio in the 7th house. Ooh, wow. Okay, so you're quite one of a kind, unique, and probably also very independent. But anyway, okay, Sun in Cancer and Ascendant in Aries. Wow, you got a lovely mix. So thank you for sharing that with us. And now let me see what else I wanted to tell you about today. So we've talked about everything. Oh, another positive thing is Chiron is trine the moon as well, which is bringing healing to the ego. So this can be a very healing, heartwarming moon for you, full moon for you, depending on how it plays out in your natal chart. So do we have any questions so far? Am I going too fast? Okay. Oh, Leo stellium in the 5th. Wow, fantastic. That's actually fantastic. So Leo, you need to do something Leonine in your life to feel complete, to feel vital, to feel, yourself. So it's beautiful.
I've got a question. My partner is Leo.
Okay.
So does that mean that this is a good time for him or not at the moment?
What date was he born?
26th of July.
It's possible. It's probably affected. It's probably affected.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's just a moment of feeling in alignment, within himself. So I think it's a positive moment. But there's a lot of interesting energy at the moment, overall, outside of the moon. So it's a very interesting year for Leo, and for you as well, for Taurians and Scorpio and Aquarians as well. Any more questions? Yeah, I think your partner also is gonna be affected. It would be good to know. Ask your partners how they're feeling it today. How they're feeling today. Is it a good day? Is it a bad day? Is it a crazy day? And let me know.
If your partner's a man, and I'm going to be sexist here, if your partner's a man, it's better to ask him what he's thinking. Because when you ask a man what he's feeling, sometimes that goes to the box of nothing that us women don't actually have, that little box. When you ask a man what he's feeling, he tends to say nothing.
Yeah.
Israel and Neil.
Oh, he's very nervous and agitated. Oh dear. Okay. Thanks for asking him, though. It would be interesting to see his chart today. But anyway, let's move on. So what else can we say about today? So we've talked about the fact that, so today we've got Jupiter conjunct the Sun, and it's just a once in a year event. So this is the time, basically, to pay attention to any kind of vision that's coming up to you, literally visions of the future, because when these two come together, that's what usually happens. I would pay really good attention to that, because it's very you can make it happen. Anything is possible when Jupiter is close to the Sun. Also, this is the luckiest day of the year, because it only happens once a year, but it's also called the day of miracles because of this. So miracles can happen. Things that seem impossible can happen. Obviously, with Saturn there, you need to put in the hard work as well. Nothing comes, out of nowhere in life. Nothing is free. So, but if you aim high and build a plan and follow the plan, it will happen. So what does Leo represent in general? So we don't have any Leos as such here, do we? I don't think. Yes, sorry, Joanne. Oops. We'll say only nice things then. Oh, and yes, and your husband as well. Okay, so Leo is all about the heart. If you know any Leos, exactly like Joanne here, you will know that they are generous to a fault. They are proud of you, very supportive. They're loyal, brave, so brave. They'll take on the world. They're never scared. They're very warm. They're loving. They're caring. They're authentic. You always know where you stand with a Leo. They are also protective of the people they love, expressive. They're fun-loving, creative, and this is absolutely the good stuff. There's also some bad stuff as well, you know, like any sign, of course. Or not, Joanne. So what's the bad stuff? So Leo, you know, it is true. Leo tends to be the center of attention often, whether they actively seek it or not. You know, they just tend to kind of like attract people to them and also want people to be attracted to them often. Sometimes they overreact to things. You know, they tend to be a bit emotional and they tend to overreact in a melodramatic way, you know, a little bit. And sometimes they will also, you know, respond, you know, quite aggressively, you could say. You know, they're considered to be a little bit like in a you know, obviously the shadow side that doesn't come, you know, comes up occasionally, could be almost like a little bit bullish, you know, sometimes towards other people that may be a little weaker perhaps. And you, as I said, they'll always tell you what they want, what they think, what they, you know, there's just so straightforward. There's just, you know, you'll always know where you stand with them, which can be good and bad sometimes, you know, because the message can be a little bit strong. The heart is there. The message the emotion may have the better of the Leo, and you know, and so it can ruffle a few feathers and bruise a few egos along the way. But the heart is there, and you know, Leo genuinely, you know, wants to do the right thing. So when you have a full moon, there is an opposition scenario between the sun and the moon. So the moon is in Leo, as we said, and the sun is in Aquarius. So what this means is that there is like, it's like a crisis point, you know, it's like two opposing views of the world. And specifically, the moon is so bright right now that it illuminates all the darkest recesses of your soul, you know, all the things unsaid, maybe that you weren't aware, emotions that you weren't aware of, and so on. They just come to the surface when there's a full moon. And so often the full moon is a little bit crazy, you know, people, like everybody, I mean, it's a fact. It's, you know, it's a fact that the police and hospitals are on high alert at full moons. So ask anybody. Yeah, sorry?
And psychics.
Oh yeah, and you know as well.
We do a lot of crisis work around full moon, so it's all the people who are in a complete emotional meltdown state.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard people like they expect, you know, like in a hospital or even 9/11, you know, the emergency services, they get the weirdest phone calls like, yeah, there's a pink cow in my garden, and you know, things like that. Can you come and get rid of it? Just like weird, and they just know, oh yeah, full moon today. Yes, madam, we will do that tomorrow, or something along those lines. So it's a time of extremes, you know, literally there's an opposition. So one hand and the other. And so things come up, and for example, they found that people tend to not to sleep very well before a full moon. There was an article in the news today about that. Science has been proving this more and more. So scientists need to be convinced that you know, the moon has some effect on us, but we know already. That's why we're here. So, but today we've talked about the moon. We've talked about Jupiter. We said that there's Saturn in there. It's all, you know, good and dandy. So this talks about some big plans that we have lined up for us. But we've got other planets involved. We've also got Uranus, which is in Taurus. And we've got Mars, which is in Taurus. And that's why this full moon is really interesting, because we have what we call in modern astrology a T-square. So there's literally like a 90-degree, it's like a T. If you look at the square, and I'll show you some charts, in the chart, it just looks like a T, like this. And this is an aspect in astrology that talks, it's called, and you know, it's people think different things about it. It's a very dynamic aspect. So it's the energy is dynamic. There is a lot of friction, but ultimately things happen when there's this friction, because, you know, people are almost forced to take action. It's a crisis point and something's got to be done about it. That's what a T-square brings about. So brings about progression, manifestation in the outside world. So now, Charlie, were you thinking of something?
Yeah, it'll become apparent when I get a chance to speak. There's just so much synergy with what you're saying, and the breakdown of you know what's going on energetically.
Okay, yes. So brilliant. I look forward to hearing your energy update later, which is a gift for the people who joined us late. It's a gift. It's a gift we have today, in this day of abundance. We have Charlie, who's kindly offered to give us an energy update. And Charlie's of Chat2Charlie is a fantastic clairvoyant. I worked with her for 3 years, I think now, and she's just like so spot on. So it'll be interesting. And Joanne also, you know, is an energy healer, and she's very so it'll be interesting. You know, she probably has got her own take on the energy situation at the moment. So going back to Uranus, so in the chat, or if you know how to do the reaction thing, the reaction button, do we like or dislike Uranus in astrology? Thumbs up, click on the reactions button. Who likes it? Or, you know, in the chat, let's have a look. What people are saying. Okay, people are not saying. Or just the chat, in the chat. If you've got the chat, you can write something. Okay, now Uranus in astrology is a mixed bag, really, because there are some people who absolutely love it, and also some people who think it's got like a benefic influence on people's lives. And then there are other people who thinks that actually, no, it's, there you go, Kristen. Yes, definitely like Uranus. I have much of this energy later. Well, yeah, clearly with the square that you mentioned, with the situation in your chart. Yes, thank you. Israel, we love it. Excellent. Was that the lodge talking or you? So what Uranus does, Uranus has got this on-off energy. It's like a switch, on, off, on, off. And it's a planet that when you're having a transit by Uranus, you're going to feel it, because there's this Uranus for president. Well, we had Uranus for president in the US beforehand, actually. Look what it did. That made me change my opinion.
It's the clue in the way that it's worded, you know, if you sort of separated the two words.
Yeah. No, it can be very positive, absolutely, if you like and embrace change. That is a big if. And not everybody does that. And guess what? The signs that are involved today with the full moon, which are like Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, primarily. So any placement, anything you've got in there is gonna, you know, it's gonna resonate to Uranian energy. Yes, Biden is also he's got Uranus on the descendant, so it's gonna be interesting. But essentially, Uranus comes along, and suddenly whatever you had going in your life isn't good anymore. You're just fed up with it. You can't stand it anymore. you want change. You want to distance yourself from people and situations and circumstances. So you want change when Uranus happens. But change is not easy for everybody. Change is one of those things that most people actually struggle with. You know, that it's a lot easier and more comfortable to stay put, to stay, you know, to maintain the status quo. So so often there's friction there, a lot of friction going on with Uranus in your chart, especially if it's hitting like some big planets in your chart. Now, at the moment in the sky, in fact, throughout this year and part of next year as well, we have an interesting confrontation taking place between two huge and hugely different planets, which is like energies. So on one hand, you've got Uranus that we said is in Taurus, and it's there until 2026. So quite a long time. And it's really pushing the buttons of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. It's, you know, it started in 2018 and it's transforming their lives, whether they like it or not. So Uranus is also called the awakener because it alerts you, it makes you aware of what needs to change. So it stands for disruption as well. You know, if Uranus had it its way, if you like, you just throw everything out of the window and be done with it in an instant. That's the Uranus way. So often when I have a client session, I just tend to go, okay, let's breathe. Let's not do anything crazy. Let's think this through with Uranus, because you may do that, throw everything out of the window, and then regret it bitterly. So you need to, I think you need to be careful with Uranian energy. I love the fact that it opens your mind, that it proposes the new, something new. Although new doesn't always mean better, by the way, let's be careful. So I love that. It's like, it's the higher mind. It literally opens you up to anything, okay, because, Uranus is so strong and this is the year of Aquarius. Who believes we're going to come in contact with aliens? It's been in the news, aliens. Yes. And I think, it doesn't necessarily have to be this year, but certainly we are in this new energy phase with a lot of Aquarius, with a lot of air signs. I think we need to look up to the skies because something is going to happen. Not today, though. Not necessarily today. Who knows? Maybe. But Uranus is in Taurus and Saturn is in Aquarius right now. And basically, these two planets represent the exact opposite. So Uranus is everything new, revolutionary, disruptive. Let's just, change the status quo, change everything. Saturn is the opposite. Let's be careful. Let's, maintain the status quo. Let's do everything sensible. Let's not do anything crazy. So they're the exact opposites, essentially. And they're going to be in challenging relationship with each other throughout this year and also part of next year. So when this happens, and this happens quite rarely, this is not something that happens every year at all. This takes decades because, all the planets go around the sun and take a certain, like Uranus takes 84 years, Saturn takes between 28 and 30. So it's rare that they come together in a sign or that they are in a particular relationship to each other throughout. So it's quite rare. And when it happens, you can rest assured that change is about something important is about to change. And when it comes to Aquarius and Taurus, we're talking about the foundations of humanity, because Aquarius is about the greater good for humanity. So we want a society that is more equal, more inclusive, and there's also a lot of technology. There's aliens, as we said before, as we established before, and and Uranus in Taurus. You know, Taurus is a very what's the word, kind of like stable, again, doesn't like change, like solidity, like stability, like all it wants, you know, is the comforts of life, good money coming in, a good home, all of those things. It doesn't really like when the boat is rocked, not so much. It's just uncomfortable with it.
That might be what we like, but it's not necessarily the way that we've lived our lives, which can be in complete contradiction.
Exactly. Thank you. It's like Libra, it's supposed to be balanced. Ask anybody who knows me. Am I balanced? Anyway, so there's this push and pull in the sky right now. And this is triggered as well by the full moon. So this full moon plays into this dance between Uranus and Saturn. And so it's calling for change. But the full moon is bringing the heart, and the other planets are bringing the other ingredients, like the mind, which is Saturn in Aquarius, and Uranus in Taurus is bringing the essential resources, the survival instinct. So it's quite big stuff.
The number one card that's trending in readings at the moment is actually a card known as the Wheel of Fortune. So those of you that are into tarot will know the Wheel of Fortune. It's really interesting because Marilena at the moment is put in a panastrological circle, and that's exactly the detail on this card. And what this means is that, you know, part of what I'm going to be talking about later is how we're in cycles and circles. Now, we have them all the time, and that might be hot and cold, on and off, black and white. But you might have noticed at the moment we're going to extremes. We've got on, off, postponed, delayed, rescheduled.
Yeah.
We've got hot, cold, boiling, freezing.
We're having problems with Zoom.
Black and white, and 6 million shades of grey. So basically, that energy is the equivalent of Russian roulette. So whenever we make a decision at the moment, it might feel as if we've got a gun, we spun the barrel, and then we put it to our head or someone else's. And also it's chaos energy. And basically it means that at the moment, and this has been trending since March, you know, it's as if there's a monkey up in space, kicking the planet around, perhaps flying off the planet, landing back in the wrong place. I totally can tune in with all of this here with what I'm seeing in every reading. So, for example, I've already said we've got this sort of chaos energy. And when we're talking about what the heart wants, whether this is looking at things like joy. So let's say we want to stop moving sideways, and where we want to get, so we've got where we are, which is moving sideways like crabs on beaches. Where we want to get to, obviously, you know, there's some fine travel and some elevation in lifestyle going on, but what we need to do, and in actual facts, in this particular case, we've got to watch and wait at the moment. We've got to sit there and watch and wait for that shit.
I see.
So that's sort of one element of it. And when you're talking about the imbalance, which energy-wise is coming in again with that Wheel of Fortune. For example, if we look at love, at the moment, there's this feeling of sometimes for many people right now, being in the passenger and not the driving seat of things that are going on that are connected to love. And the outcome that we're kind of looking for is balance and perspective. We're trying to get to that balance and perspective, but we're actually having to do a little bit of smoke and mirrors, a little bit of appearing and disappearing, which means in partner space, you know, or if you're sort of single and you kind of chat to someone, sort of appearing and disappearing to make them miss you, that sort of thing. Then we look at sort of money and making sort of, you know, progress with money. So what we've got is planting seeds at the moment. So either that we are planting or that we're sort of looking at how seeds have been planted, and there's a little bit of growth starting to show. and the objective is to get to a little pot of money. You know, for some people that might be a deposit on a house, and for others it might be some savings, or it might just be a windfall. But in that particular case, what we've actually got to do strategy-wise is to give thanks for abundance. The spirit world won't give us more abundance until we actually close our eyes and sort of like say, you know what, all things said and done, I've got a roof above my head, food in my tummy, and we get a little download at that point for, you know, for acknowledging that abundance. And also we've got the sort of looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, and that is sort of to do with, you know, thinking that what's going to make us happy is going to come from someone or something or a change. But in actual fact, what we're doing is clogging ourselves up with overthinking. So we're going sort of somewhere along the lines of what if this, what if that, what if the other. And in actual fact, what we're heading for is a brighter day. And let's face it, in most cases, you know, it can't get any bloody darker. And the strategy here is actually to remove that overthinking, because, you know, it's bringing extra problems. We start off with one problem, but by the time we've got anxiety about it, we're bringing all these other problems to the table. So that's sort of dealing with what the heart wants. It's dealing with that imbalance that you know is looking at trying to get from one place to another, and also trying to get in there and reconnect the world or be the change. You know, as well as seeking the change, we're now realizing we've got to actually be the change, even if that might mean, for example, civil disobedience or sort of going against the grain. And on the sort of resourceful side, I've already sort of more or less covered that. It's about being thankful for those of us that have got abundance. And the obsession is really funny because that comes back to the Nine of Swords. And this is people who have got a really clear idea of what the crown chakra is. And they're opening it up to receive from the spirit world, and they're opening it up to send for the people. But somehow it's all getting clogged up with either this obsession that you talked about, or sort of just processing things. And because we're processing, we're not having time to actually pick up on our intuition. And the result, in effect, at the moment of everything is that we're feeling pinned into place and restricted. We're feeling as if there's just one crap storm after another. We're feeling as if maybe we've got adrenal fatigue or we're exhausted. But, you know, we will return to these good places, and we may be reunited with people or things that we were looking to rejoin with. But one caveat, and that is be careful what you actually wish for, because sometimes we invite these people or situations back into our lives and then later turn around and think, wish I've not wished for that. And then we've got the card of transformation or alchemy, which is that we're all learning a great deal at the moment, but how can we take that pile of poo and actually turn it into manure?
Okay, thanks, Charlie. Thank you very much.